Hi. In today's video, I'm going to explain you about the installation process in context to TensorFlow. So before I'm getting into the TensorFlow, let me explain you being into artificial intelligence side, especially in the context of the role of a business analyst or of any other roles, all that stuff. It's always important for us to use multiple tools as far as AI is concerned, artificial intelligence is concerned. So when it comes to the role of a business analyst, because most of the business analyst comes from the functional side to an extent possible. I'm not generalizing this for everyone, right? So most of the people from the functional side, even they come from. And nowadays, as in we see, role of a business analyst is moving towards the technical side. Hence, it's always important for us to acquire some technical knowledge. So acquiring some technical knowledge relating to data analysis side like that, knowing, having a knowledge over SQL, Power BI, Python, some kind of Python programming. At the same time, having some knowledge over API integrations, APIs, web services, service-oriented architecture, right? So microservices. So this sort of knowledge, technically, a business analyst must be good with. That's how the transformation is going on. At the same time, being into transforming towards artificial intelligence side, one of the tool, right? So there are a lot of tools, of course, in the field of AI. So one of the tool called TensorFlow, which is majorly used widely, which is an open source one, right? So which is used majorly in the field of artificial intelligence, especially one being a business analyst, we must be good with. So this video is majorly intended to explain you about the installation process, because when I'm handling the trainings in context to business analyst AI and all that, so this is one of the tool majorly I use it. So as I stated in the beginning, technical knowledge is one thing required. So coming to the point, this is where generally the tensor installation of the TensorFlow is all about. So whenever we want to install this TensorFlow, all that, so this TensorFlow can be installed in different supporting systems, because in the previous video, of course, I'll forward a link about the introduction of business analyst in artificial intelligence earlier, which was posted recently. So I'll provide you the link as well. So in that, I have mentioned in context to data analysis to have some knowledge over Python or something like of that sort, right? So if we wants to install any TensorFlow and all, so there are some supported following systems which can be used here, because even we can use it on Python, because Python is one kind of data analysis programming language widely used across industries. So at the same time, even this installation of TensorFlow can be done even on MacBooks, like MacBooks, if anybody is having, or Windows or Ubuntu, right? So these are the different platforms where the installation of TensorFlow can be done. So at the same time, whenever we want to run any TensorFlow in context to the containers itself is concerned, because Docker is one of the container platform, especially when we are working on the DevOps environment. People who are working on the DevOps environment also, technically speaking, will have a knowledge over this. So having a knowledge over Docker installation in context to the containers is also one of the prominent thing which we have to be known with. Next, in addition to that, whenever we are working on this TensorFlow, we need to download the packages. That is the first thing which we have to do. So when you want to download the packages here you can see there is an option called download package, wherein we have to click on it. So whenever we want to download any kind of packages or something of that sort, whenever we want to download this TensorFlow package, all that stuff, right? So here we can see for there we have different options for this, right? So even if he wants to install through Linux and all that, so whatever the kind of verification in context to the verification process of Python will be of this. But whereas majorly whenever we are working on Windows or Windows WSL2 or else if there is any kind of MacBooks and all everything, so that also can be done. But majorly I will prefer Windows here, Windows WSL2. So where this can be supported, especially TensorFlow can be supported in this regard. So where whatever the required installations and all everything can be done over here. Right? So that's all it. So these are the hardware requirements. Of course, if you want to install this TensorFlow software, what kind of hardware requirements are needed? So what kind of hardware compatibility devices are required, right? So I'm talking about hardware installation process, right? So this is all something comes under the hardware part. Next, system requirements, because when it comes to the Windows platform, as I stated here, Windows WSL2, Windows 10, right? That's what generally I'm using. So this is where I'm doing the installation and what are the practical exposure and all everything I'm giving on this regard. So here, this is a 64-bit Windows WSL2 Windows 10. This is what something which I'm taking, right? So because if somebody wants to use it, MacBook and all everything, they can use it. But as far as GPU support itself is concerned, Mac doesn't have it, right? So that is one thing which we need to understand before we are working on. So I always prefer Windows WSL to Windows 10 is what something which I'm using, right? It's in context to the software requirements, system requirements as concerned. Next, when it comes to the software, as I told you, because Python is one thing which normally we use. Let me show you, because this is where generally the Python we have. Right, so yeah, here you can see there is, we have a Python software wherein it was already installed over here. Right, so Python software, because what is the installation process are we going to do? Everything I'm doing on Python itself, right? So Python is what something I'm using, Python 3.1.3.12.0. That's what I'm using. So either it can be 3.9, 3.1.1, right? So something of that sort. Anything can be used as far as the software requirements for the Python itself is concerned, as I already taken, as I've already installed and I get myself ready for Python. So when it comes to the training, I majorly focusing on Python part, because this is more or less from the industry side, which is required nowadays for the people to understand and to work with. So hence I'm using this one majorly of its start. Next, when we wants to use, as I mentioned itself, because Windows WSL2 is what the system requirements I'm taking. So I always prefer Windows WSL2 is to do it. So if you want to install any kind of system requirements and all, make sure first of all we need to install WSL2 is for sure for Windows, which is for Windows 10 update, all that stuff. So once the installation process is done in context to the system requirements, we need to work on GPU setup, because GPU setup in context to TensorFlow is something required, so that we need to install the kind of drivers which is of NVIDIA drivers installation and all everything is required. So this is also something which we have to be installed. So when we are working on GPU setup, etc., all that. So this is also one of the driver which we need to install it, so that we can see, we can copy the code sample and we can use it accordingly. Next, when it comes to the installation process of TensorFlow, as I told you, because there are two different users we have. One is about GPU users and as well as CPU users we have. So it depends on the kind of user availability, user availability, what we have and all everything. So we need to know about what kind of users are we going to do and how this users can be used and all, right? So this is all something which we have to be known with. So this is also one of the key and important element which we have to do it. And next is about, this is all about the verification as well as verifying the installation process. What are the installation process in context to this is what something which we have to be learned with. So once the installation process, as I already stated, I'll be focusing more on the Python part. So Python installation is what something which I'm going to do. And next, if there is any package locations you want to install in the machine and all, here itself we can have, right? So wherein package locations can be taken. So I always prefer either it can be GPU or CPU. So any one package location can be taken. So am I taking over here, right? So in context to 3.1.2, am I doing? So for example, in context to the Windows Yeah, I'm just selecting at 3.1.1, right? So here you can see this is where generally this installation process I can do it. So that here you can see the installation process is going on, wherein the installation process I can use it. But make sure if you want to install this package in context to the Python part, package location to do it, make sure we need to have a step-by-step requirements where we have to update all the system requirements at the same time, even software requirements, hardware, everything we have to make sure. So then it's easy for us to have some practical knowledge under the TensorFlow when we are working on the artificial intelligence tool. So this is one of the tool, of course, I say, right? So it's not, this is not only the tool, but there are a couple of tools even. But when it comes to the practical understanding over the roles and responsibilities and all, I always prefer to go for TensorFlow. So this is more useful, right? So more because it's a open source. One of the advantages is that this is an open source, so that we can use it more effectively. So this is all about this video. I hope you got an idea, right? So because as in the beginning I stated, role of a business analyst majorly from the context of technical knowledge is required for a person. So this video is majorly useful for the people who wants to work on AI, especially on the TensorFlow, that too who wants to transform their career towards business analysis in artificial intelligence, who wants to acquire knowledge or who wants to transform themselves into the field of it. This is all something which they wants to know. So this is all about this video. If you have any training or coaching or any queries, all that stuff, or any training or coaching needs, please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.